In this video, we're making an easy waffle recipe, and the best part is you don't need any eggs or any dairy to make these classic home-style waffles. The full recipe will be written on the screen as well as linked in the description box below, so let's get started. The first step when making waffles is to make your own buttermilk, which I know sounds really hard, but all you have to do is mix some lemon juice into your milk, and this will create a quick buttermilk, which is gonna add lots of flavor to the waffles, and that little bit of acidity is also gonna help to create some lift so we have nice fluffy waffles. So just mix those two ingredients together and set it aside. So we'll set that aside, and then what I like to do whenever I measure flour is take a spoon and fluff it up before I measure it out. That way it's not so densely packed and I get a more accurate measurement. Then I'll spoon the flour into my measuring cup and level it off. You're gonna need 3 cups of flour for these waffles, and then we'll add 1/3 of a cup of sugar, some baking powder, salt, and cinnamon, and whisk this all together. It's actually really important to whisk the dry ingredients before you add the wet ingredients. It just makes sure that everything is evenly distributed and it creates a way better final product. For the wet ingredients, you're gonna need 1 cup of mashed banana, and I like to mash it really well so it's nice and uniform. Then we'll add the buttermilk that we made earlier and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Whisk this together just until no more flour is visible, but you don't wanna overmix. And then right at the end, we're gonna fold in our melted vegan butter. Then go ahead and give it a stir and set it aside. Some of you might be wondering if you can swap out the granulated sugar for maple syrup in the batter, and I think that works really well for pancakes, but I found that for waffles in particular, using a granulated, just regular granulated cane sugar works the best because it creates a little bit of a crispy crust on the outside, which just gives it the best texture, but also it promotes even browning on the surface of the waffle, which is flavor. So I wouldn't swap it out because the maple syrup can just create a little bit of a softer waffle. So that's my recommendation. Keep the cane sugar for best results, but remember there's not a lot of sugar in these waffles. They're not particularly sweet on their own, and most of the sweetness that you do taste comes from the bananas, which are naturally sweet. I also have some tips for extra crispy waffles towards the end of this video, so stay tuned for that if you've ever struggled with getting your waffles to stay nice and crispy after they've cooked. The batter will be a little bit thicker than pancake batter, and it will have some lumps, so you don't have to keep stirring to try to get those lumps out. You actually want them there because it's gonna create a fluffy waffle. So this is exactly what you want it to look like. Now we're gonna go ahead and preheat our waffle iron, and once it's hot, I like to brush it with a little more vegan butter, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add the waffle batter right to the center. Every waffle iron is gonna have different directions on how much batter that you can use, but most of them require about a 1/2 cup. So go ahead and spoon that into the center and cook until nice and golden brown like this. The result will be crispy and buttery on the outside and light and fluffy on the inside, which I think is perfect. You get a little bit of sweetness from the banana and the vanilla and the cinnamon, but it's nicely balanced with the sea salt and the vegan butter. So it really is just a classic home-style waffle that you guys are gonna love. All right, here's some tips for creating really nice crispy waffles, and some of them are super easy, but they really have an impact. And I found that with cooking and baking in general, sometimes the little tiny techniques that you learn along the way really do make the difference between something good and something great. So if you want a crispy texture, make sure that you preheat the waffle iron first. That's super important. I know it's really easy to just want to start cooking, but make sure you give it about 3 minutes to really heat up. Mine actually has an indicator light that lets me know when it's ready, and that's important because that initial hit of heat, that initial contact really starts sizzling right away, and that's what sets up the foundation for a crispy waffle. So number 1 is to preheat your iron. Number 2 is to actually let the waffle iron reheat in between waffles. So I never used to do this. I always used to just kind of take the waffle out, put more batter in, close it, and just keep going until I was done with all of the batter. However, I found that if you wait about 20 to 30 seconds just to let the waffle iron reheat, you want to close it and let it reheat. This really helps it come back up to temperature in between waffles and allows for each waffle to be nice and crispy and get that great contact with the heat. Number 3 is to set your waffles on a wire rack instead of just stacking them on a plate, because if they're stacked up on a plate, they're gonna steam and become soft, which I actually don't really mind. I think they are still delicious that way. But if you're trying to create a nice, even, crispy texture all the way around on both sides, I would recommend setting them on a wire rack so air can circulate in between, and you can even flip them over just periodically while you're cooking the other waffles. So that way air can really help to circulate and dry out that outside so it gets nice and crispy, and then you have a fluffy inside. And number 4, and this is something that I definitely do, is to preheat your oven to 200 degrees. And you can keep the waffles you've already made in the oven at 200 degrees. That will keep them nice and warm, but also it crisps them up a little bit so that every single waffle is warm and you can serve them all hot. I hate when like the last waffle is the hot one and the first one you made is already cold. So this really just allows for everything to be served hot and crispy and delicious all at the same time. Comment below and let me know what your favorite waffle toppings are. I personally love just good old-fashioned, some vegan butter, hot maple syrup. I think that combination is a winner, but I also love making like PB&J waffles with peanut butter or almond butter and then raspberry jam. Sometimes I will do a fruit compote and a vegan yogurt. There's lots of different, and I also love like granola and stuff on waffles. I think that is really good. But let me know what your favorite waffle topping is in the comments below. And don't forget to check out the description box for the recipe. You can just click see more under this video. It will open up with a whole bunch of links for you. And there is where you'll find my recipe, or you can always find it on nikkivegan.com. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye.